Hello and welcome back to Timeline Shift, where we explore the most fascinating what-ifs in history. Imagine a world not 12,000 years ago, but in our present. A world where the last ice age wasn't a temporary chill, but a permanent state of being. A world where vast, continental ice sheets still cover much of North America, Europe, and Asia, locking the planet in a perpetual winter. We often think of our history as a story of progress, of moving from the Stone Age to the modern era, fueled by the warmth of a changing climate and the bounty of a fertile planet. But what if that warmth never came? What if humanity was forced to evolve not in a world of abundance, but in a world of scarcity, a world defined by the unrelenting cold? The end of the Ice Age is a pivotal moment in our history, a time when our ancestors were able to put down roots, develop agriculture, and build the first great civilizations. But what if that moment never arrived? What if the ice never melted? This is a journey into a world where a different kind of dawn breaks over a frozen world, a look at a civilization that could have been, and the legacy it would leave behind. It is a story of a silent shift that would alter the course of Earth's history. In our history, the great ice sheets retreated, and the world bloomed. The Fertile Crescent became a breadbasket, and the great rivers of the world became the cradles of civilization. But what if a subtle change in Earth's axial tilt, or a prolonged period of volcanic activity, prevented the planet from warming? What if the woolly mammoths, the saber-toothed tigers, and the great cave bears never went extinct? What if our ancestors were forced to share the world with these great beasts, and to survive a permanent winter? This is a journey into a world where a different kind of dawn breaks over a prehistoric world, a look at a shared world that could have been, and the legacy it would leave behind. It is a story of a silent shift that would alter the course of Earth's history. The Hunters and the Hunted, a world of perpetual winter in this timeline. The relationship between early humans and the environment is not one of simple dominion. It is a complex, delicate, and often brutal dance of coexistence. The humans, in this world, are not just solitary hunters. They are highly social, living in small, close-knit family groups with a deep reverence for their elders and a profound understanding of their local environment. They are masters of the cold, and their bodies are perfectly adapted to the harsh Ice Age climates. The key to their survival is a behavioral adaptation. They learn to live in harmony with the great beasts of the Ice Age, and to instead find their own niches in the vast and dangerous frozen landscape. The immediate consequences of this coexistence would be both profound and subtle. The development of human technology would be shaped by the need for survival. We would not be able to simply spread across the globe unchallenged. We would have to be more cautious, more resourceful, and more respectful of the local inhabitants. The great migrations of our ancestors would be shaped by a new kind of map, a map that shows not just the rivers and mountains, but also the territories of the great Ice Age animals. The relationship would not be one of friendship, but of a grudging, wary, and often brutal peace. The social structure of the human tribes would be built around the need for constant vigilance. The children would be taught from an early age how to recognize the signs of an Ice Age animal, how to build a fire, and how to use a spear. The elders would be the keepers of stories and legends of the great beasts, of the times when the peace was broken, and of the lives that were lost. Their societies would not be driven by a sense of dominion over nature, but by a sense of humility and a deep respect for it. Their history would be filled with stories of great escapes and heroic battles, not of great conquests. Their art would be a celebration of the struggle for survival, of the power of the great beasts, and of the unshakable resilience of the human spirit. Their technological development would be a fascinating divergence from our own. While we were driven by a need for efficiency and a mastery of our environment, the humans in this timeline would be driven by a need for safety. They would develop more advanced traps, more effective ways to build a secure shelter, and more deadly spears. They would be masters of survival, but not of conquest. They would see themselves as a part of the great web of life, not as its masters. This would make their civilization incredibly resilient, but also incredibly cautious. They would not have the drive to explore, to expand, or to conquer new territories, as they would be too preoccupied with the dangers of their own world. They are a civilization of survivors, not of explorers. They are a testament to the power of the human will, but also a cautionary tale about the limits of human ambition in a truly dangerous world. Their spirituality would be a fascinating blend of animism and a deep reverence for the great beasts. They would believe that the great beasts are not just animals, but a kind of God, a living, breathing force of nature that must be appeased and respected. They would have rituals and ceremonies to appease the great beasts, to ask for their protection, and to show their respect. Their rituals would be a celebration of life, of the changing of the seasons, and of the great cycle of birth and death. They would see the world as a beautiful, intricate, and deeply spiritual place, and their goal would be to live in harmony with it, not to dominate it. This would make their society deeply peaceful, but also deeply isolated. They would have no concept of a threat that could not be outsmarted, outwitted, or outlasted. They are a species that believes that the mind is the greatest tool, and they would be blind to a threat that could only be defeated by a weapon. A different dawn, the legacy of a frozen world. The greatest long-term consequence of this frozen world would be a profound and dangerous sense of intellectual isolation. In our history, the end of the Ice Age allowed for the rapid expansion of humanity. We were no longer competing with other apex predators, and we were free to spread across the globe, to develop agriculture, and to build the great civilizations of the ancient world. But in this timeline, the humans have a constant reminder that they are not alone. They have a constant rival that keeps them in their place, a constant threat that prevents them from becoming too confident, too arrogant, or too complacent. The human civilization in this world would reach a technological peak, but a societal plateau. They would be masters of survival, but not of conquest. They would develop more advanced tools, but they would not have the drive to build great cities or to explore new lands. They would be a species of hunters and gatherers, but they would be the most technologically advanced hunters and gatherers in history. The unsinkable myth would not be a physical ship, but the idea of human dominance. The belief that they could ever truly conquer the world would be shattered from an early age. They would live in a world of profound intellectual and philosophical exploration, but they would do so without the crucial technological safeguards that were born from human struggle. This would lead to a period of unchecked intellectual curiosity, a golden age of thought, where knowledge would take precedence over survival. The inevitable result would be a future, larger, and far more catastrophic event, the rise of a new rival. In our timeline, the great beasts died out, and we were left to compete with our own kind. This led to the great wars of history, the rise of empires, and the development of the most destructive weapons the world has ever seen. But in this timeline, the humans have a constant external threat that keeps them united. They would be a species that is constantly on guard, constantly wary, and constantly prepared for the next battle. The disaster would be a far greater tragedy than the wars of our history. The survival of the Ice Age, in a bizarre twist of fate, would have created a more dangerous world, one where the most essential lessons were never learned. Their great intellectual legacy would be turned to ash in a single day. The world, in this timeline, would have a more tragic, more brutal lesson to learn, and the cost would be far higher. The fall of human civilization would be swift and total. The rise of a new rival, a species that is not afraid to use technology, to build, and to conquer, would plunge their world into an eternal war. The human tribes, who had built their civilization on the principle of harmony with nature, would be utterly helpless against a force of this magnitude. They would not have the technological means to survive, and their advanced philosophical understanding of the universe would not be able to save them. The end of their civilization would be a chilling reminder that no amount of intellectual progress can protect a species from a threat they are not prepared to face. The legacy of their civilization would be a world of silence, where a great and brilliant culture once stood, a haunting reminder of what could have been. The unsung heroes, the legacy of a frozen world. The survival of the Ice Age would have a profound and lasting impact on the lives of those on board. The world would not only be different for them, but because of them. The great human thinkers, poets, and artists would have lived on, their contributions to society shaping the course of human history in ways we can only imagine. The world would be a far more vibrant, and far more complex, place, with the contributions of these unsung heroes shaping every aspect of human life. Their intricate language would have captured the beauty of the natural world, their philosophical texts would have explored the meaning of existence, and their art would have preserved the memories of a world that would soon be lost forever. However, a world with the Ice Age would also have a more subtle impact. The story of their coexistence would have been a testament to the power of a different kind of progress. Their legacy would be not one of technological prowess, but of intellectual achievement. The rise of a new rival, which in our history was a moment of utter and total destruction, would be a tragic, yet defining moment of their history. The story of a civilization that rose to intellectual greatness and was then wiped out by a single, catastrophic event, would be a haunting and powerful reminder of the fragility of even the most brilliant minds. The world would be a more thoughtful, and perhaps a more spiritual, place, with the human story serving as a cautionary tale for all future generations. This timeline, where the Ice Age never ended, shows us the profound and often hidden consequences of our historical choices. It's a world of great intellectual and philosophical marvel, of uninterrupted progress, and of a great victory for cognitive ingenuity. But it is also a world without a great tragedy, and without the technological push that a tragedy brings. The paradox of this timeline is that in their quest to create a more perfect and more comfortable world, they would have lost the opportunity to learn from their mistakes. The end of the Ice Age was a tragedy, but it was also a great lesson, one that would have been learned by our own species, but in this timeline, it was a lesson that was learned too late. The human's rise would have created a world of intellectual complacency, a world that was blind to its own flaws and vulnerabilities. This is a powerful, and deeply moving, look at a future that could have been, and a reminder that sometimes, the greatest lessons are the ones that are learned from the greatest mistakes. If the Ice Age had never ended, do you think humanity would have ever developed agriculture or cities? How would a world of permanent ice have changed the relationship between human tribes? Would a world without global warming have been a more peaceful place? If you want to keep exploring the what-ifs and see how our world could be different, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Timeline Shift, and get ready for our next adventure.